and maybe fans are going to tune off when I bring this up, but can we at least address the status of the transfer portal at quarterback again? Because every week we talk about it, but it has changed once again. I said about a month ago that I was guessing that most of these quarterbacks would be gobbled up by January 1st, and that has not been the case. Some of them have been, but there are still a lot who are out there. You've got a West Virginia channel. I know there's been a lot of controversy about Dagey and fans that didn't want him to be the starter at West Virginia, but he was a starter at Power 5 level. Is that a kid that, if you're Iowa, you should even look at this point? Would he be an upgrade? Let me ask you that. Would he be an upgrade from what Iowa currently has?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I think I think he would battle for the job. I think he's in that class.
Right. But it's just these people who say, well, he's not very good. Well, have you seen Iowa's quarterback room? And so the kid from Marshall, if you know who I'm talking about,
I
Grant
bet I'll know
Wells.
the name as soon as you say it. Yeah.
Grant Wells.
I have no evaluation on him.
Yeah, some of these, but see, again, you could say, well, why would we be targeting a kid from Marshall? Iowa's more apt to go after a kid from a Marshall than they are. That doesn't make sense to me, but they're more apt to do that because they believe they could have a chance at landing him as opposed to someone at the Power 5 level. Caleb Williams, give me the percentage chance that Caleb Williams would consider, say Bob Stoops, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but say Bob Stoops called up Caleb Williams and he said, hey, Caleb, I want to give my endorsement to the University of Iowa. Here's Kirk Ferentz's number. He's going to be calling you here. Would Caleb Williams, what would be the percentage chance of him considering it?
Okay. Caleb Williams has been very upfront about his number one priority is being developed for the NFL.
Right.
I also got to think that
that's not happening at Iowa.
It's not happening at Iowa. Also, I just got to think that somebody would put it in his ear, watch the Iowa offense. Just watch just watch some games from last year.
Can you just give me a minute to lie to? Can you just give me a minute to lie to myself, Mark? That Iowa has a chance.
Yeah, Caleb Williams is a bit out of reach.
Yeah.
The other thing with that type of quarterback, and you've made this point in the past, I believe, is that they want to see a style offense that is going to cater to their skills. When is the last time Iowa, even when there was a mobile quarterback, they still ran the same offense? They didn't run it for a running style quarterback.
No. But, guys like Brad Banks succeeded.
Sure.
I mean, you can't argue. I mean, he's the one example, but it did work in the Iowa system. So there's one guy you could point to. I know the game has changed a bit, but man, he was tremendous. Were you a big Brad Banks fan? What did you think about him back in 2000?
I knew he wouldn't play in the NFL, but yeah, I thought he was a gamer. I thought he was, a tremendous leader and, dynamic.
Do you think he deserved to be in the Heisman consideration that year?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Dagey, the kid from Marshall, Grant Wells, I think I looked up his numbers. So he had a 66.4 completion percentage in 21, 8.0 yards per attempt, 140 passer rating. Jarrett Dagey, if anybody wants to know, 65.2% completion percentage, 7.3 yards per attempt, 136 passer rating. All those numbers are better than either guy at Iowa. So I'm just saying, I'm not trying to lobby for any of these guys, but it's going to be hard to find a starter at the Power 5 level who would not be an upgrade from Iowa's quarterback room right now. That's all I'm saying. And you're right, system is important. The biggest issue is will Iowa even consider going after any of these kids? And that's the biggest. It continues to be the biggest question.
It would be interesting to see what Wells did in the bowl game, since it was BYU's defense and they won that game. And then also any other Power 5 opponent that Marshall, I'm trying to think who they played in the non-conference schedule, how well he did in that game. I'm sure they played a Power 5, but I can't remember what game that would be.
Tell the fans about, because I know nothing about him, the kid from Ole Miss that just entered the portal, the quarterback / wide receiver. What was his name? John Rice. He's got 3 names.
Oh,
right?
John Rice Plumlee. I was not aware that.
Yeah, I was just entered the portal.
He entered the portal. Okay.
Yes, he did. So should he be on the radar? He doesn't have much he's been used at receiver a lot, hasn't he?
Yes. So, yeah, quarterback who was supposed to be the next one in line, and yeah, a running quarterback who can certainly throw it. I've seen him play quite a bit at quarterback, and he's a really good player. But again, he's a different type player than what Iowa's had there. But he was good enough. He was good enough as a wide receiver that they flipped him from quarterback to play wide receiver just for the bowl game against Indiana last year. And he caught like 7 or 8 passes. He caught the key pass that led to the game-winning score. And then he wasn't good enough to even step on the field this year at wide receiver. They were that stacked at wide receiver, but he stepped in just as a slot receiver against Indiana and had a tremendous game.
So I guess my question would be, is he a guy? Because again, Iowa has been in the portal. I think they recruited Isaiah Nayer. I think going by basically, the Tyler Barnes and who he's following on Twitter, and he was following Isaiah Nayer, which would make me think they were at least somewhat interested in Nayer from Wyoming. I don't know where he committed, some big school, but I think wide receiver is probably a position they would consider taking a transfer at. They took Matt Quarles from New Mexico a couple of years ago, so they've shown the willingness to do that. They took Charlie Jones from Buffalo, although he was not even on scholarship at the time. But I guess my point is, would this kid from Ole Miss even consider, how highly touted do you believe he'll be?
He's not played a whole lot of quarterback. He's played some, and he's played against good teams.
But bring him in. If I'm Iowa, if you're looking for a wide receiver and he's got a history at quarterback, bring him in. Let's see what he can do this spring. See where he fits. If he doesn't fit at quarterback, let's play him a wide receiver. Now, again, it's assuming he wants to come here, which is doubtful.
So your call on either Plumlee versus Daggy would be Daggy is more of the sure thing. Plumlee is more of a dynamic athlete.
Right.
It could possibly be better.
Yeah. So, and I saw Jack Bob brought up that Adam Cox started following Caleb Williams. So Adam Cox is a grad assistant, I believe, former Iowa fullback, on the Iowa staff. So if that's the case, then that's going to get Iowa fans at least somewhat interested in the recruitment of Caleb Williams. But I agree. I don't think it's conceivable. And I think he could go just about anywhere, couldn't he?
I don't think John Rice Plumlee's your guy. Not at Iowa. Yeah,
Well,
I don't think he's good enough, number one, nor number two, is he the style quarterback. Can you see an Iowa quarterback? I just pulled up his numbers because I knew as a freshman he ran like crazy.
Yeah.
He ran for 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns as a quarterback.
I saw that yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we need something different, but I agree. Iowa's not going to. So to end our show, Mark, you said about a month ago that you were going to find Iowa fans a quarterback. Yeah. So tell me, you have a good feel for, as do I, unfortunately, but you got a good feel for which quarterbacks are still out there in the portal. First of all, what were your thoughts about Gabriel flipping to Oklahoma?
Yeah, it's crazy. You wonder if these guys are talking to each other. That was the first notion I had because it seemed to be orchestrated.
Oh, absolutely. They've got to be, right? I mean, there's no violation. Even, I mean, not that people are concerned about violations anymore, but that's not a violation. 2 student athletes calling each other up and talking.
Yeah.
I will say this.
Agree.
There are a lot of quarterbacks still out there, more than I thought there would be, again, a month this time. So who at this point, would you still say Calzada? I haven't heard anything about Calzada.
I forgot I said that because I do need to find you a quarterback.
I just don't know. I've not heard a darn thing about Calzada. I heard he was committing to Pitt, then Slovis committed to Pitt, and since then I've heard nothing.
Yeah, he would be my guy thus far. Out of these 3 or 4, he would probably win the job, but he wouldn't be a slam dunk winner over Padilla and Petrus.
Jack Bob, he says, what are the chances Iowa takes a QB? The chances are 10%. So 90% chance they don't, Mark. That would be what, I mean, Mark, they haven't done, again, we've had a month go by. Wouldn't you think they would have done it by now?
They should have looked at Adrian Martinez.
Well, they didn't. Not that I couldn't validate that claim that they were, at least.
Keaton Slovis would have been a more accurate Spencer Petras.
Yeah, but see, now he's going to a place where they did develop a guy who's going to be a first-round draft pick at quarterback, and it makes sense. So, I see Joey just made a comment. Connor Bazelak from Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
Iowa did recruit him. Iowa recruited, and they offered him, Mark. They offered Bazelak and Calzada. So those would be two guys that would be obvious to look at. But I just don't have any reason to think they are. Keep talking about it. We just keep slam dunking it in our own faces, but it just doesn't change. Now maybe both these guys, maybe they're being recruited by Iowa and Iowa's somehow keeping them quiet, but I don't think I don't think there is much of a chance of that happening, unfortunately.
We're going to end this show on a positive note in a strange sort of way, in that I want your thoughts on the play call that gave Iowa the lead. I saw some ingenuity, and the play call that Brian called that got Sam Laporta the ball, where he threw the block and kind of faked out and got lost on the other side of the field and caught it and ran for the game-leading touchdown.
The screen
right? Play. It was a decent call. It was a nice call.
Yeah, it was.
In the moment.
I said after the game, I thought Brian called a good game. I mean, there were some moments that, again, I don't understand, but I also have to realize, like the 4th and 1, that's Kirk. That's Kirk saying, we're punting here. So I will say this, that the call to Laporta, we ran some screens to our backs. For some reason, those weren't used against Michigan, which didn't make any sense, because I remember Coach Patterson bringing this up to me ahead of that Big Ten championship game. That the one thing that you could argue Michigan was susceptible to were screenplays. And Iowa didn't run one until the third quarter of that game when they were down 3 scores. So that made no sense. You could argue that Kentucky was somewhat susceptible to them as well, and they waited a while to run one against Kentucky. But they did work. Laporta, Jack, I see Jack's comment that Laporta is head of the NFL. He is not. He is coming back. So I guess I can't say it with 100% certainty, but 99% certain. Again, just from what I've been told, and I wouldn't normally say that, but this is going back to my conversation with Tom Kakert. He is very, very confident he's coming back, and I trust Tom and his sources. So that's good news. So assuming something doesn't change, and they could always change. That's why I don't say 100%. But yeah, you're right. That was a good play call. And Mark, let's just give a shout out to these backs. I know we brought them up earlier, but were you impressed with what we saw from Gavin and LaShawn Williams?
Yes.
And Ivory Kelly Martin's not coming back. So it'll be those two guys plus maybe Devin Hilson from Des Moines North, and then Patterson and not Don, Jazzian. Jazzian Patterson and Caleb Johnson coming in next year. So I think the running back room is fine.
I think the two running backs and the offensive line complemented each other extremely well. They were given lanes to run, to work with, but then they were also dodging some guys and dragging tacklers for extra yardage. Boy, I thought it was really good.
They both know how to lower their shoulders, and that's something Tyler Goodson just really never was able to do. He just didn't have the size, kind of like Akram Wadley. But boy, LaShawn, to me, has got a good burst. And he trucked a guy. I don't know what point in the game it was, but it was a fun highlight to go back and watch to get an extra couple of yards. So they're going to be fun to watch for the next few years.
I'm also going to give kudos to both of us, because I think it was on this platform in this show just last week that I said this game has 20-17 written all over it. And you were of the same mindset. So
my prediction heading into the game was 24-20 Iowa. So had Iowa went down and scored the touchdown, I would have nailed it. But you did as well. It's kind of what you expected. But in the end, I think the difference you'd have to admit was Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, it just, again, you can look at quarterback play, but ultimately at the end, just didn't have the speed to match up with a guy like that. And to me, he's an NFL player. He's a little bit undersized as well, but I think he's an NFL wide receiver
who caught 104 passes this year.
He's incredible.
My goodness.
To me, he's right there with David Bell. And those, I mean, I know Iowa fans feel like David Bell is the best of the best because of what he's done against Iowa, but he is right there with David Bell. And that's why I certainly was fearful of what he could do. And unfortunately, the game, bore that out. But I will say Will Levis, Iowa kept him in check pretty well for the most part, but I still like Will Levis. I think he's a really talented guy. And I didn't realize that he was actually, the ABC commentators were talking about him being in draft consideration. So again, shout out to him. He played great, and it is what it is. You move on, and we'll have a lot of time to talk about next season, Mark.
Right, folks. I doubt this, but if any of you Iowa fans have any more interest in Kentucky, we did record a segment with our Kentucky guy this week, or just today, that will be released on the Voice of College Football SEC.